everyone. My name is Daniel Park, and I'm excited to welcome you to our Meet the Expert webinar with Dr. John Ehlers. I'm going to be moderating tonight's session, Finding Freedom in My Digital Workflow. Before I introduce you to Dr. Ehlers, I want to take a moment and acknowledge that we have a variety of people on this webinar. Some are newer to learning about Yomi. Some are more experienced providers who are here to dive into this specific topic. Before we jump into Dr. Ehlers, I want to address a couple of things about why Neosis created Yomi in the first place. First, the dental implant market is growing, and in 2 years, 1/4 of Americans will need implants. 3,000 dentists are currently performing full arch procedures, and doing them can help expand your practice. Yesterday, your talent and confidence dictated your ability to do implants. Today, Yomi's robot-assisted implant surgery gives you the repeatable accuracy that helps you and your patients feel more confident with treatment. Just like other categories, Yomi uses a GPS-like system. That means you input your plan, and the robot gives you a physical response when you're going off plan, even allowing you to make accurate real-time adjustments in surgery. Robotics isn't new in healthcare. For over 20 years, robotics has been improving all areas of care. And finally, Neosis has been able to bring repeatable accuracy to the dental implant market. This is Yomi, one system that helps improve the entire implant experience from planning all the way through restoration. When you think about what problem Yomi solves, there's three. We help you expand the complexity of the cases you can do. Yomi helps you increase efficiency with the types of cases you currently do. And finally, Yomi provides excellent patient and team experience. Our presenter, Dr. John Ehlers, is the owner of Tiger Family Dental in Sedalia, Missouri. With over 13 years of clinical experience and a decade of specialization in implantology, his practice offers a full spectrum of implant services ranging from single implants to all-on-X procedures. Today, Dr. Ehlers will walk us through his digital workflow journey with the Yomi robotic system, giving us a comprehensive view from inception to completion. So without further ado, let's get started on this journey to discover the freedom and precision that the Yomi robotic system can bring to your digital workflow. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our distinguished presenter, Dr. John Ehlers.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure to join everybody this evening. And like Daniel was saying, we're gonna break down the digital workflow for full arch implant dentistry, and we'll kind of also go over some different things that Yomi has kind of changed in my practice, and then just kind of dive into all those things. So first off, I want to talk a little bit about my background. As Daniel was saying, I graduated from UMKC School of Dentistry in 2010. And after a couple of years of, I worked in a FQHC for a couple of years, and then I actually did a year internship at the OMS residency there in Kansas City, and kind of found out that although I didn't want to do OMS practice solely, I did like the surgical aspect of general dentistry, and from there I really started kind of going down my implant journey. The first major step was I joined SERP, which is a year-long implant residency program that kind of goes over all of your basics and kind of dives into some of the more extensive implant procedures. And that's through Alabama Implant Education. And then also following that, kind of went through some different continuums through Implant Pathway there in Phoenix, Arizona. Another great implant education. And I think the point I'm also going to make is these are two places that I chose. There are a lot of great, avenues of getting your education. I think the main thing is making sure that you do get that education and don't just do a weekend course and think you're going to jump in and do a lot of implants. Do a good job of finding a comprehensive education program. So I just want to jump right into a day in the life of my practice, and more specifically, let's jump into a full arch case. And I want to talk about the workflow from start to finish. So basically, the patient comes in for consultation. First thing we do, we take a 3D scan. We talk about different options. In my practice, a patient with, failing dentition or they're a dentulous, we're going to give them three options, ranging from traditional dentures to an overdenture situation, potential overdenture bar, or going to a all-on-X procedure. We're going to detail the all-on-X procedure here. I think it's also important just to kind of touch on financing discussions. If you're going to be treatment planning a lot of full arch dentistry, you really need to have a robust financing option for these patients. You know, the average patient that gets a full arch in our country has a median income of about 40,000, 40 to 50,000. So, you know, they don't have that kind of cash just laying around. So we as dentists need to make the ease of saying yes and following through treatment as easy as we can, and having different financing options is important there. So we have a records appointment, and with our workflow is we take an iOS scan of the upper lower, we get the bite, and then we take facial photos, smile, exaggerated smile, a profile, and then retract it. Now, they do have some facial scanning software that's coming on. Instarisa is one. There are a lot of different options out there. We haven't implemented that yet in our practice, but that's also, I think, you know, room for growth in this digital workflow, really showing the patient a 3D example of what that looks like. So on surgery day, first thing that we do is we place TADs in the palate for upper, and then we do on the retromolar pad on the mandible. But what this is doing is this is giving our software or our scanners the ability to arrange and relate our images. And so it's very important whenever you're aligning the arches, aligning the bite, that you have these type of instruments. And again, this is our workflow. They have different options as well for that. So next, teeth removal. You know, basic full arch surgery here, just showing that. Also showing you what good reflection. You know, kind of isolating your ridge. Visualization is very important for that. Then we're talking about bone reduction. Now with bone reduction, the way my workflow goes is we do a kind of a tentative bone reduction based on my Yomi plan. And as you can see on this top image, that is called the Yomi bone link. And this provides the foundation for everything. This provides the connection for the haptic arm that we can talk a little bit about. But this is going to give the robot the 3D spatial position of the patient. And so, and what's amazing about Yomi technology is as if I'm getting ready to place an implant, the patient moves at all, the robot can sense that with the haptic arm, and literally the handpiece of the Yomi robot will move with the patient. So we're not talking about a static guide that you're fixed to. You know, this is a real-time guide that's going to show you and make adjustments as the patient moves. So it's pretty amazing technology, and we love utilizing that. So again, we do a tentative bone reduction based on our Yomi plan, and then we attach our Yomi bone link. Now, kind of stepping back a little bit, whenever we do our initial scan, I will go ahead and make my pre-plan through Yomi software and place my implants. We can even virtually place our Yomi bone link. And based on that scan, when we do our day of scan, we'll merge those two files. And by doing that, it gives you the speed that you've already kind of planned the case. You know where that good bone is. But after removing the teeth, after placing your Yomi bone link, now all of a sudden you get that secondary kind of backup analysis. Okay, this site I thought was going to be a good site. After tooth removal, you know what? Let's try to find another site. Again, this is where Yomi comes in. It's where it has a supreme advantage over your static guide systems, because, as you know, if you've already planned and you already have your static guide, you can't just melt some of that acrylic and replace that position. You know, you're stuck with that. And so Yomi, on the fly, real time, it happens virtually every surgery where we have our plan, our pre-plan. Once we get the teeth out and we're ready to start actually placing implants, there is tweaking involved there. So again, one of the probably the most important aspect of full arch implant dentistry with Yomi is the ability to make those changes on the fly, and that's made our surgical outcomes way better. So okay, so now we're ready to place our implants. The first thing you have to do in that situation is achieve landmark. In this lower image, I wanted to show you, basically this is our handpiece. We've got a pre-measured distance from the end of the handpiece to the tip, the working tip of our drill. And when you achieve landmark, Yomi will send you feedback saying, okay, we have confirmed that in our software the landmark that we've predetermined is matching up with what we're seeing clinically. And so I just wanted to highlight that for y'all. And so this is just showing, kind of a breakdown of our implant placement. You can see as I'm placing the implants, and I just want to show you a quick video of kind of how this goes. So as we're entering the osteotomy site, the handpiece will go, and when we reach our depth, our driver, which is Madeline in my office, she will let us know that we've reached our endpoint, and then we can proceed with our next size drill. And so again, that's just showing how that's all broken down. So after our implants are placed, now we're going to graft our sites. And with what we do, we graft after NUA placement. And so we're getting closer to where we're preparing for getting this restoration scanned. So then we suture and we place our white caps. Now, depending on the software you have in terms of capturing implant position, we use the Micron Mapper in our office, and these are the white caps that are associated with that. We'll have a video a little bit later in the presentation about how that goes. But whether you use a Micron Mapper, PIC, ICAM, other options, this step is important because number one, you're getting the data to be able to send it to your lab and design your provisional. So when we talk about data acquisition, there are a couple things that need to be involved in that. Number one, your iOS scan of all the soft tissue. And this is where a really good scanner comes in. We have the T5 through 3Shape, and the ability for that to scan soft tissue, to scan tissue that has some bleeding involved. These scanners are becoming so innovative that our chairside assistant, she can scan this in a matter of a couple of minutes and get a very good scan that we can then submit to our lab. And this is an example of the Micron Mapper. Again, I want to click on the video and show you how we're doing that chairside. Yeah. So it's as easy as that. And if any of you all been doing full arch all on X for a period of time, you realize that the verification jig appointment is frustrating. It's inefficient. It's you lose money every time that patient has to come back for a verification appointment. You're losing money, and so with this appointment, what we're doing right there, we're scanning and verifying that implant position, and we don't have to do that again. That because this is all virtually planned, this is all digital. That data right there will carry through the case, and so that alone, that piece right there is worth every penny because we don't have to worry about the verification appointment. These implants have been verified from surgery day on. The only thing that changes is soft tissue from healing. And again, this is another example. This is our iOS scanner, our T5. I'm just kind of showing you how easy it is to scan this tissue. Yeah. You get as much tissue as you can. And so with those two things, we have enough data that we can send to our lab. And because the lab already has all of our pre-planned and our photos from before, and based on all that, they can just give us a design. And the way that our process works is Power Dental Studios in Illinois is who we use. And what they will do is, based on that information, we'll have a design back in about 45 minutes. And so we take that design, we put it on our 3D printer. We have the P55 from Sprint Ray. And again, we design this, we print it. And so again, within 45 minutes of the scanning that we send to them, we've already got the file. Another 45 minutes, we have our provisional printed. Now we do some staining and characterization, and then we're ready for delivery. And it's literally as simple as that. So post surgery on the day on a daily basis, we can have the patient leaving the office with a direct to MUA provisional, in a couple hours. And talk about a game changer from an office workflow standpoint, efficiency and profitability. This is where the digital workflow comes in. I think the centerpiece of that workflow is having your Yomi robot to give you that accuracy that you need. And so, final scan and delivery, like we talked about before, because we have that micron mapper, we've already verified implant position. So in 2 to 3 months of healing, we've got plenty of tissue healing there. We take off our provisional, we do a new iOS scan, put our provisional back on, and then we send that new tissue overlay to the lab. And at that point, we're ready to seed our finals. And that is as simple as that. I can show you some before and afters later on in the presentation, but that workflow has changed the way that we practice here. Because what happens is the patient, that has a traditional all on X, they're going to see this workflow. They're going to tell all their friends that need it, and it's just a superior option. So a couple of reasons why I chose Yomi, and this is not just for full arch, this is in general. Clinical precision. It's centering up that screw access. I try for all my restorations to be screw retained. And so getting that screw access central in that crown is important to eliminate cantilever, food packing, all those things. So having that precision that you can use with Yomi is very important. A systematic workflow for the staff. As our staff gets accustomed to Yomi, you can see the ownership that they take. It's no longer just kind of helping the doctor out as he performs an implant surgery. As we have a clinical chairside assistant, we have our driver. There's a 3-person workflow here that each person has a very integral role with that. And so what I've seen with my staff is now that they've taken that ownership role, they're way more confident. They can talk the process with our patients. Our close rate when we're treatment planning is improved, just because they are an integral part to this, and it's pretty amazing to see. In standing out in the crowd, let's face it. As the market becomes more saturated with dentists that are placing implants, you need to find ways that you can set yourself apart. And for me, Yomi was that way. We were the first dental office west of St. Louis in Missouri and even in Kansas that adopted Yomi. Being the first to market, for us was huge, and we ran with that. Billboards, radio, TV ads, we utilized that to stand out. And what you'll also find is with this type of technology, you're going to get patients not just from your community. You're going to get patients with a huge, distance. So realize that when you adopt a technology like this, be ready to market yourself. Be ready to hit the ground running, because you're going to be impressed with how many patients are choosing you just because of the technology. So some questions that I had going into this process: is the ROI there? Will it be too difficult to put into our workflow? What will patients think? Will some patients be scared away from this scary robot that's going to be hovering over our surgical site? Does the technology work like it's supposed to? Does my practice implant volume support the purchase? These are all questions that I think all of you listening probably have, and I can kind of go through what I found, and then you can apply it to your practice. So the case cost before Yomi. I'll go back to our surgical, our full arch process. Before Yomi, we were spending between 8,000 and 9,000 an arc, sometimes more. We would bring in a lab tech to do our conversions for us. That's costly. The stackable guides are costly. With Yomi, I've gotten my full arch cost down to about $4,000. And so we're cutting our cost in half on a surgical basis. Some clinicians use a guide for all their implants. If you're one of those clinicians, the ROI with Yomi becomes very robust very quickly. But even if you're a freehander, I freehanded most of my implants other than full arch before. And just the clinical precision, the ability to know your implants are going exactly where you want them, that also has an ROI attached to it. You're failure rates go down. Your ability to, your remakes go down because again, your placement is predictable. It's going to be central in that crown, and so that all goes into the ROI. And I think with what we see in our practice, our full arch implant volume has gone up about it's doubled. Implant volume in general has gone up about 40%. So again, you add those things to your practice, and it becomes very clear that Yomi is a win-win. And when we talk about does your practice volume support it? And I think you have to realize too, when you look at your practice today, and then you look at your practice 6 months later with Yomi marketing, and I will say too, Neosis does a great job of having the staff to support you with marketing, giving you the marketing materials, giving you the ability to get yourself out in front of your community. A perfect example for my practice, we had a patient that was working at the local newspaper, and he saw the Yomi was in our office. We actually did some Yomi implants for him, and he decided to do a no cost, basically a no cost testimonial through the paper for our practice. Those are the type of things you're going to see whenever you implement a technology like this. Places that you would typically have to pay for marketing, they're going to reach out to you and say, tell me about this technology, because they feel the local community deserves to hear about something that's going to change the way we place implants. And it's happened that way for me. I've talked to a few other colleagues that use Yomi, and it's happened with them. So it's not, I don't think I'm unique in that regard. If you apply it to your practice, you're going to have the same experience, and it's an experience that pays for itself many times over. So why I have true freedom in my full arch workflow, I can't get anywhere else. You have the data, the ability for guided bone reduction. This is something that we could probably talk hours on just by itself, but just to give you an overview, because with the new module 3 Yomi, we literally can plan our bone reduction, because if you need a certain amount of restorative space, you plan it into your Yomi software, and then based on that, Yomi will guide you as you're reducing the bone. So that is another game changer, that we can pre-plan all that. There's no more guesswork on how did I reduce enough bone? Is my smile line going to be covered? All those things. The ability to print in office now. Be able to seat that screwed in temporary the same day as our surgery. Patients aren't leaving with dentures anymore. They're leaving with a custom direct to MUA provisional that they can function with. And again, we talked about changing the plan dynamically. That, I think, is the take-home message that I want a lot of you to have, is you're going to have that freedom to make changes throughout that surgery. Even if you think it's a good site, you start your implant osteotomy and just realize, man, the bone is just not there. You can move it, you can change it. Yomi makes precision more predictable. And these are just a couple cases that I pulled that I wanted to show you. Some cases that, I probably wouldn't have tackled them this way if I didn't have them. A flapless overdenture case here on the left. This is a patient that was edentulous. When we took their teeth out, we kind of thought they were going to go the implant route, so we did already reduce bone. And what you can do there is you can attach your Yomi bone link over the tissue. You can punch through the tissue, place your implants. So there's no incisions, minimal swelling, minimal pain afterwards. For a patient that doesn't want to go through the all-in-X procedure, that is an amazing service for them. That patient can leave in an hour and a half, have all their implants placed with virtually little pain afterwards. So that has been a great service that we can offer. In terms of immediate placement of implants and the ability to temporize that the same day for our anterior cases, Yomi allows that. You can verify that implant is going to be emerging palatal to the incisal edge, to where you can get a very nice, very aesthetic temporary solution for the patient as their implant is healing. And then also, when we're talking about, a lot of patients don't want to wait 8 months for your bilateral sinus surgery to heal before you can place implants in the posterior. And so angling implants has become very popular with full arch implant dentistry. And getting your implants as far posterior on that medial wall of the sinus as you can is, again, very important. You want to get that AP spread as far back as you can. Yomi allows you to hug that sinus wall and, again, get as far back as you can. Before, you would, I think if you're freehanding this case, you have some trepidation there. With Yomi, it's a second. I mean, I don't give a second thought to it. We planned that in the software. We've verified a position with our landmark, and I know that where I'm planning, that implant's going to go every time. And that is a comfort level that is hard to replace when you're talking about in a surgery for a patient. I wanted to show you another video here of the actual implant placement with Yomi software.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 3.
So that's just, again, showing how our driver is communicating with us as we're doing the surgery. In that situation, because I tend to, if we're dealing with soft bone, we don't always go to depth. We can you'll make that clinical decision as you're placing implants. But I think what I wanted to get with that video is that the ability for your driver to have the confidence to speak with you throughout the procedure and direct you in those situations is very important. And that's something you're going to see as you implement Yomi in your practice. So this is a case that the patient comes in with advanced periodontal disease, and this is about 4 hours later. We placed our implants. We went through our complete digital workflow that we talked about, and he left with screwed in temporaries, direct to MUA, and the ability to smile. And these are the cases where when you start doing a few of these, you get addicted to the patient response. It makes this fun for us. I did full arch implant dentistry because I think it was a good part of a service that we provided before. Now I do it because it's my favorite thing to do. We literally can have a predictable outcome every time, and we're changing patients' lives by doing so. So a couple patient transformations. This is a lady, and again, I won't read each testimonial, but these patients are walking billboards for your practice, and having a predictable outcome that you can truly showcase. This is where ROI comes in, because I'm not paying this patient to talk about our practice. I'm not paying this patient to give good reviews and post certain things on social media. They do it naturally because they get to see that workflow, and they get to see the transformation from a difficult situation to this, complete health. And I always point to, we're dentists, so we look at the teeth, but let's look at the eyes. I feel like when I'm going to show you some of these transformations, the health in their face and their eyes is so evident. So it's things that we're proud of that we can offer, and Yomi has been such an integral part of that. One of my favorite patients to work with, he comes in and he has such a strong gag reflex, he can't wear dentures. So he has 2 teeth on the bottom, and he has nothing on top. And he's functioned like that for several years. And eventually, he comes in, he says, I have to do something. I think for anyone that does full arch, those are the patients that we see. They're at the end of the road. This is the last option for them. And so, if we can be that office that, number one, has the confidence to treatment plan the case, win them over by having them trust us, and then deliver with a predictable approach. And this is what we've been talking about. Our digital workflow provides that predictable approach to these surgeries. They're going to love your office for life, and you're going to have patients that will really sell more dentistry than you can even imagine. Another patient, and it's what's amazing about these patients is because you see them several times, they become like family to us. At least that's how our practice is. And to see that smile afterwards, whenever they go through this type of transformation, it's life-changing for us as well. So this is why I'm so passionate about educating people to get into this type of workflow, because it doesn't have to be challenge. It doesn't have to be difficult. The technology is there to make our lives easier, as long as you embrace it and you educate yourself with it. And these are just some examples of doing that. So I'm gonna just play a couple testimonials for this is my chairside assistant. She's been with me for several years. Kind of for the docs in the room tonight, I want you to kind of listen to see what they say, and you can even take this with your staff and kind of what their expectations would be and how the reality is.
Ashley, what concerns did you have about implementing Yomi in our practice?
So one of my concerns was just how it was going to change the workflow of our office. We've placed thousands of implants kind of with the same flow of things, and so I wasn't sure how implementing Yomi was going to affect that and how we were going to utilize it and what my role was going to be in the office with Yomi.
What do you think Yomi has done for the practice, and do you think it's been a net positive?
I definitely think it's been positive. I feel like it's changed our entire game on our full arch cases, our overdenture cases. It's made things a lot more comfortable for patients as far as it's minimally invasive and all of that, and then it's just given our doctor the confidence to know that they're going right where we want them to go, and it's just definitely helped our schedule and our patients.
And one last question. What would you tell a staff member of an office that's thinking about getting Yomi for their practice?
So I would just say, keep an open mind. You have to have confidence going into it and knowing that it's going to get easier. It's very intimidating. It's a big piece of equipment. You just have communication with your team, and I think that's one of the biggest things is just making sure that everybody's on the same page and you know what your roles are, and you just work as a team, and I think it just kind of takes off, and the more you use it, the more you get comfortable with it.
All right, thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
And this is Madeline. Now she is our driver, so she is the one that's giving me feedback on where the implants are going and changing the settings. You have to have a lot of confidence in these staff people because you do delegate a lot with this workflow, and it's important to have them kind of take that ownership role and have some confidence. So this is what Madeline had to say about it.
Okay, Madeline, what were your thoughts about Yomi when I mentioned that we were going to get it?
I was really confused on what my role would be. Confused, like honestly, how it works at all. Yeah.
All right. How do you think Yomi has changed how you view your confidence level? And personally, I think the whole team can see like your ability to function in that role has changed your whole outlook on the whole practice. So can you just kind of give a few words on that?
Well, it's kind of given me more confidence to, even just talk about implants. Before Yomi, I didn't know a whole lot about implants just coming in to the practice, and so learning what it actually does and being able to give patients education on that.
That's great. Okay. And lastly, what would you tell other team members who would be new to using Yomi, and what would you tell them is kind of what to expect in the next 6 months, the next year?
Definitely pay attention in training. It's a lot to be thrown at first, but it makes sense the more you kind of work on it. It's definitely something that I'm glad that we got because we have so much success with it, and it's just easier to kind of see how the process goes by watching Dr. John plan it and things like that.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so that kind of concludes the presentation. And I think Daniel will kind of screen some questions and put them in the Q&A box, and I'll try to answer them the best I can.
Thank you, Dr. Ehlers. You have your Q&A segment below. Please keep your questions coming in. Does the cost of the robot qualify for 179? And if so, what does the time and delivery look like?
Yeah, so it absolutely qualifies for Section 179. All of the robots built in-house as of now do have names attached to them. We continue to build robots that keep up with orders coming in, but it should be Should be clear at this point that delivery times are about 30 to 60 days out at this point. So yeah, if you are wanting something like a robot for Section 179, orders really should be getting in by mid-November to make sure we can deliver on those. The way it works is basically around the end of November, we start to lose a little bit of control as orders come in. And once we get it in December, it can become a little bit less likely. So, keeping in mind, this is not a CBCT. These are not intraoral cameras. It's a little bit longer of a lead time. So, yeah, if you have any questions about delivery dates or pricing or anything like that, make sure, do work directly with your local Yomi rep.
Thank you, Matt. We have a question here for Dr. Ehlers. Is Yomi able to place all types of implants?
Yes, I can only speak of I've placed BioHorizons and Neodent implants with Yomi, but the library is quite extensive. I personally looked through the library and there are implant types that I wasn't even aware of that they have in the library. So, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the ability they can continue to add to that library as well. So if you're using any kind of FDA regulated implant system, I'm fairly confident that Yomi will be able to work with you on that.
Fantastic. We have another one here, Dr. Ehlers. How long did it take you to feel comfortable with the software and the system?
The software was very quick. This software is probably the easiest of any of the digital software that I've implemented in my practice. From 3D technology to your scanners, those are way trickier than Yomi. Yomi it's very intelligent, it's intuitive, and even for my staff, it's amazing how really from day one of training we kind of had that we had that workflow down. And I will say I'll tip my hat to Myrna she was one of our trainers. The training through Yomi is extensive. I guess I could even say it's overextensive. They do a great job of whenever they leave your office and you're fully autonomous, meaning you're doing a surgery by yourself. There is no doubt in anyone's mind through Yomi or the practice that you're ready for that. And so the software side, very, very straightforward. I will tell you from a workflow standpoint, there are challenges that you're going to see with Yomi. The main thing I think that I've realized is sightlines. Sightlines of your implant placement are different. Is that a bad thing? Not at all. It just means it's a change. I think anytime you learn new technology, you have to adapt and realize that adapting to that technology is going to make the end result better. And so I don't think you should anticipate buying Yomi and being able to do the surgery without any frustration from day one. If you have that mindset, you'll be disappointed. When you buy Yomi or buy any kind of big technology like this, you have to be able to realize that there's going to be a learning curve. That learning curve can appear steep at times, but you will get to the end. I've been placing Yomi not even a year yet, and I feel like it is we are not a dental office that uses robots for implants. We are a robotic implant dental office. And I think when you make a purchase like this, you have to adopt that mindset. You're changing the way you place implants. And this is going to be a function, whether it's a single implant or full arch. Yomi has to be that, that mindset for your practice. That way, the messaging that you're sending to your patients is very, streamlined across the board.
Fantastic. We have another one here, Dr. Ehlers. Approximately how many chair time hours does the process take from start to finish?
So, well, I can talk to you about the patient. We had a patient today, upper arch. Patient was seated at 8:30. We completed surgery by 10:30, and that includes getting all of our scanning after all that. Basically, all of our start to finish to data acquisition. The patient was done at that point, and then like I was saying, after we send all that data to our lab, we get a design back in 45 minutes. It takes about 40 minutes to print, another 30 minutes to polish, stain, and characterize. But the patient walked out of our office at about 12:45 today, and so that's a single arch. If you do a double arch, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the fastest clinician healer. So I'm sure there are some people out here that are doing these surgeries quicker than I am. But for us, we typically will do a double arch, and the patient will leave with screwed-in temps by about 2:30 or 3.
We have another one here, Dr. Ehlers. Does Micron Mapper make scanning abutments?
That's a good question. Not that I know of. What we found is, if you're going to use Micron Mapper, and I've done this with implant bridges. You can place those implants deep enough to where you can have room for an MUA, and then you can put your white caps on the MUAs, scan that, and that's going to give you your verification. So I think that's where it's going. And I'll even say this too. What I've heard is that they're even improving our iOS scan bodies. There's some technology out there that iOS scan bodies that you can scan with your iOS, and that's going to give you the verified implant position. It's going to give you that accuracy within the stitching process. So that's the thing too. This digital technology that we're talking about now, a year from now, I'll probably be presenting on something a little bit different. But the beauty of it is, Yomi is at the forefront of that, and Yomi, with the innovation that the company has, we're going to be able to move forward with any change in digital technology.
The follow-up question to that, Dr. Ehlers, how did you choose the type of photogrammetry you're currently using?
So as I was talking about some of those implant education programs that I went to, I think that's where it's important. Go to these programs, and they're going to have a really good one. They're going to have all the technology. There was a study done, though, and just to kind of give you some confidence when you're choosing this technology. There was a study done with OptiSplint, Micron Mapper, iCam, and PIC, and they did this. It was the same exact surgery. They scanned everything with the different modalities, and what they found was there was no clinical significance with any of these photogrammetry options. So what I'm telling you is, you're going to have success with photogrammetry regardless. All these technologies are superior to, chairside pickup with impressions. So I would tell you I prefer Micron Mapper just because of the size and the ease of the wand, but they're all very good technologies.
We have another one here, Dak. Can we use densa burrs and do crestal sinus lifts with Yomi?
So from what I understand, you can use densa through Yomi because what it is it's all about the length of the drill. So again, and this is me speaking. This is not Yomi supported material. I'm just speaking from my experience. I use it because, again, it's giving you that feedback, that accuracy of the height of bone before you get to that sinus floor. And to be completely honest with you, I utilize the Yomi robot with different widths of implant burrs and all that. So my answer to you would be, and this is again not a Yomi answer, this is a Dr. John Ehlers answer. You can use Densa as long as you can verify the length of that drill, and that's getting a little technical for those that have not used Yomi. But what you'll see is that's the key, knowing that drill length, and if you can know the drill length, then you can apply that to your surgical site.
Thank you. We have another one here. What was the biggest challenge for you and your team when you got Yomi?
I think initially was the fact that we're utilizing 2 staff members for our surgeries, and so how we handled that situation is we have Yomi days, and what we mean by Yomi days is we would pick a Thursday. We started with one Thursday a month, and we schedule the entire day with Yomi surgeries. That way, my two chairside assistants, we have one focus that day. And as we increased our implant volume, now we're doing 2 Thursdays a month. Now we're doing 3. Now it's every Thursday, and we're taking a little bit of a Wednesday. And that kind of goes back to that volume growth that we're talking about with Yomi. Every Thursday on the calendar now is a Yomi day, and then our full arch days are Wednesdays. So it's taking up a day and a half of our chair time with Yomi surgeries. So that was a challenge, I think, just implementing it into your normal workflow. But if you can get kind of creative with it, it actually it's a great way to end the week. You get to do Yomi surgeries all day, and we love it. So that was one way that we got around it.
So we have another question here. What type of marketing do you do to attract full arch cases?
Yeah, so I think, in fact, we just finished this. If you're not familiar with it, we use authority marketing. And what I mean by authority marketing is find something that you can market yourself in your community that no one else is doing. And we isolated pretty quickly that Yomi was that technology for us. And so every marketing piece that we do is through Yomi, or and again, kind of step back a little bit. When you market, I focus on marketing to a specific procedure. General marketing and generic marketing. When you get to the point, especially in my practice, we have the patient's flow. We have the patient flow. Now we're looking for that specific patient. So you're marketing to patients that have failing teeth, and so we just focus on that. We do radio ads. One way that I like to do it is I'll have these. I have the dental minute on a local radio station. They call in, we talk about it, we kind of highlight some of the things that full arch dentistry can provide for patients. And so those are a couple of things that we've done in our practice.
So we have another question here. Can you repeat the names of some of the other photogrammetry options besides Micron Mapper?
Yes, ICAM, PIC, and then OptiSplint. It's a variation of photogrammetry. But again, it's more of an analog version that what you do is you use the OptiSplint, and you can actually use your iOS scanner to capture the data. But the two other main photogrammetry solutions are ICAM and PIC.
We have another one coming in. Do you typically do immediate loading?
Anytime I can. And I think that's always case dependent. And again, that's gonna range just with experience. You're gonna know that bone, the feel of the bone as you're doing your osteotomy, and that's why too, like we were talking about, as you're doing your osteotomy, you're getting to the end of your drill sequence. If you feel like the bone's soft, you don't have to go to depth every time with your Yomi software. If it's a 13 millimeter implant and your bone's soft, then you go have, when your driver's telling you 8 millimeters, you can stop. And so, but yes, I try to immediately load anytime I can. The biggest part is because when we're marketing to these patients, a big part of our marketing is you're going to leave with teeth the same day. To be able to kind of market and offer that service to patients, teeth in the same day, that's a huge selling feature. And so we try to achieve that anytime we can.
Was it difficult to get your team on board?
Yeah, I think it was. And the reason why is because it's fear. I think especially like for Madeline, she's fresh out of DA school. She's still learning the intricacies of general dentistry in general. And then now all of a sudden her boss is telling her, yeah, we're going to implement a robotic implant system that's going to completely, revolutionize how implants are placed. She's still trying to figure out what an implant is, so there are things that you have to do. And that's where leadership comes in. I think it's important to, share the aspects, the benefits of this for your practice, and help them see that vision. But it's pretty amazing for my staff. Very quickly, they realize that, okay, this technology, this is going to set us apart. This is going to allow us to achieve goals within our practice that we really hadn't even seen before. So there are challenges with selling your team, but I'll tell you, you got to do it. If you're the only one in your office that is into Yomi and robotic implant placements, it's not going to be successful. You got to get your team members on board. You got to get them excited about it, and that comes with exposure and training. And if you do those things, they'll jump on board and it'll make your life easier.
Another one here. Yomi is an expensive capital investment for dental practice. What helped you justify the cost?
I had a mentor early on in my career. He told me, he asked me what's the single best investment you can make? What's the number one thing you can invest in? And I answered real estate or and different bonds, those kind of things. And he's like, no, the best thing you can invest in is yourself. And Yomi is part of my journey as a clinician. It was part of it. It's like I'm not investing in Yomi. I'm investing in myself by setting myself apart, and it's just trusting the process. Whoever your rep is through Yomi, they're going to do a good job of breaking down ROI, making this work on paper. But at the end of the day, you just have to trust in yourself, trust in your ability to take this technology and apply it in the ways that's going to make your practice flourish. So all these ROI calculators and all this stuff, I mean, yes, it makes it a little bit easier, but at the end of the day, when you're making an investment like this, you just have to realize that you're gonna take this investment and make it work in your office, and the growth will be there.
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation, Dr. Ehlers. And for our participants, if you have any further questions, please feel free to email info@neosis.com. Thank you, Dr. Ehlers.
Thank you very much.